Okay, first question. What is being done to monitor and control runoff from area agricultural property, like into the lake, James?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't think so. That I told you that'd be the hardest. Fine.
Number 2, Mrs. Fronczak. I like that name. As a matter of fact, makes me feel more comfortable with cats, you know. Anyway, what plan or ideas do you have to deal with undocumented aliens on a local level?
Undocumented aliens on a local level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the idea of businesses asking and rental landlords asking for proof of citizenship before people are hired or before homes are rented. I like the idea of the Secretary of State's office with the driver's licenses and additional proof that are required before people have driver's licenses. And I like the Arizona state law. I think that local law enforcement, if there is someone that is an undocumented alien, an illegal alien here, that they would have the authority to pick them up and give them up to the right federal authority. I don't see anything wrong with local authorities enforcing federal law. They do it all the time. So that would be my ideas of things that we could do here locally, maybe without even changing anything, except maybe changing, you know, the guidelines that the Sheriff's Department is working on. I don't know if they do that or not. I like Arizona's approach, and I think that locally you have to take care of the people, and that's part of it.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our local property values continue to drop, but property taxes don't seem to keep pace proportionally, and so can you give some explanation as to why or offer a solution?
It's a good question, and there was, you know, I've read some things about how the property tax can only go up a certain rate, and so some people were still in the process of their rates going up, and frankly, it's so confusing I don't understand it, and that's part of the problem with our property taxes. I don't like property tax to begin with. I think it's unfair if you buy a piece of property and you own it free and clear. If you fall on hard times and can't pay your taxes, the government takes your property. What does that mean? Who owns that property? The government owns that property, and then you're paying them rent to stay there. I think we need a complete look at our whole tax system, and property tax is one of the things we need to look at. I'm not sure that property tax is a good way for any level of government to raise money. So I guess that would be my solution. I don't, you know, with how the change in the property values, I mean, that's really the owner of the property has to go down to the Board of Review, and they have to reassess what the actual value is, and they do that based on things that have sold in the area, and if there's been a thing sold, then, I mean, it's very complicated in how they do that, and there's lots of rides on the local assessor and the Board of Review, and I think there's good people there that try to do the right thing. But the whole idea of how property is taxed, I disagree with. I think that's an area where we can do better.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Last question. Business growth seems to be stagnant locally. What incentives can you offer to encourage expansion and entice new businesses to come to Branch County?
It's a good question. You know, and the governor's done some of that at the state level. I think there's a role for enticing new business to come in, but I think it's wrong if you don't. What about the businesses that have been here forever? What about the businesses that have hung here through the thick and the thin, and then you just, you know, give tax incentives for new businesses to come? What about the guys that are already here? I think what we need to do is sit down with sit down with the businesses that are already here, sit down with businesses that might be looking at coming in and saying, what locally is stopping you from doing these things? Because there may be things that are local that are stopping them from expanding, from hiring new people. It might be things at the state level, and those things could be gathered and sent up with Representative Kurtz and our state senator, and ask them to try to rectify at the state level, and the things that are federal we can send to the federal level. But I think you really have to look and ask the businesses that are involved in business trying to expand, what can we do to help? Where can we get out of your way? What is stopping you from doing it? I heard a report this morning where they're talking about the economy and some of the reports that are coming in, and the recovery is not really as good as they thought it might be, and The indicators are that we're still in a downturn, and business, and their assessment was businesses will not expand because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know how much of this regulation is going to be heaped on them. There's so much new regulation coming. Businesses are hesitant to expand or to hire new people or to start new businesses, entrepreneurs. I have a friend who's trying to start a financial business. He started at the same time in Indiana and Michigan. He's already operating in Indiana. It took him several weeks. Michigan has told him it's going to take him still several more months before he even has approval in Michigan to operate. Now that's a state level problem with a stumbling block, but this guy wants to have a business in Michigan, and the state is just making it so hard to do that. So yes, there's probably local things, yes, there's state things, and yes, there's federal things, but I think we need the people that are trying to make those businesses grow and expand, and the people that are trying to plant those businesses, ask them, what roadblocks are you running into? And then we can attack those instead of those of us that are not involved in that trying to figure out what it is. There's people out there that know what it is, and it's the ones that are butting their heads against the wall. And that's what we need to talk to. And then take it to the right level.
Okay. Now we'll allow you 5 minutes just to address the issues that you want and why you're running. So go ahead.
Thank you. Well, as I said, I'm not a politician. I don't have a background in politics. And I think that what we need locally, because we have protection at the federal level, we have protection if the government chooses to follow the Constitution, we have constitutional protections on the size of government. At the local level, the only protection we have on the size of government is public scrutiny, and the public who's being governed at that level saying, yes, we want that to happen, no, we don't want that to happen, yes, this is okay to spend our millage like this, and no, we don't want millage for that. And the only way that the public can scrutinize and give feedback to local government is if they know what's happening. Well, there isn't a good way for us, an easy way for us to know what's happening. So I think it needs to be very transparent. I think we need to be able to have a record, a voting record of all of our representatives. How are they voting? What things are coming up before the different committees, before the county commission. We need to know how our budget's being spent, because what will happen is the millage will come up for renewal on the Beta or the veterans or the other different areas that the county collects millage. And how do you go back and see what have we spent the millage on? You'll have a few people say, yes, we need it, and maybe a few people say, no, we don't. But how does the individual citizenry decide for themselves whether or not that's a millage that they want to continue to fund? It's very difficult to search that stuff out, and I think it needs to be easier in this day of internet, in this day of database, in this day of, I can go and look at how any federal representative in the country voted, but I can't look at the local county level. I think we need to make government transparent so that people have an opportunity to see for themselves easily what's going on and make their own decisions. I also think we need to have a plan. Local government, as you know, has to have a balanced budget. And they do that. They balance the budget every year. But like the airport manager asked me, how come my budget was cut this year? Well, I don't have an answer for him because I don't know what the plan at the county is. The airport's got a 5-year plan, but the county doesn't have a plan. They kind of go budget year to budget year. And so there's no overall plan of what they want to do. And if you have an overarching plan, I'm not saying it has to be set in stone, but at least an idea of where we want to go. And after we talk to the business leaders and know what we need to do, maybe that will contribute to part of that plan. Then we can say, well, we cut the airport because this and the emphasis is over there. Or maybe the airport is a big piece of infrastructure that we don't want to cut because that will help draw business in. I mean, I don't know until we have a group of people sit down and look at what's really the art of the possible here. We don't have those answers, and I want to be a part of that. Bringing people together, looking at what can we do in Branch County to enhance business, to enhance way of life, but not with big government. Not what can the government do for you, but what can the government make possible by stepping out of the way or setting the conditions for other things to flourish. It's not the government's responsibility to do that. It's the government's responsibility just to set the conditions and business flourishes. And government stays out of the way. Business creates jobs. Business brings prosperity. Small businesses have the most people working in this country. That's where the most jobs are generated in this country, small business. It's not the government, and that's, people get confused that the government needs to do this stuff for us. It's not the government. The government has to get out of the way and let smart entrepreneurs and people that create jobs and do that. And I think that's what we need to look at, and that's why I'm running.
Okay.